We have one more person. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you everyone for joining and welcome to our 2026 Child Abuse Prevention Month Partner Kickoff. So here's a quick overview of the agenda. And while I talk about this, I'm going to let you look at the role of the community or the committee and just see what we're going to discuss and talk about later. So today's agenda, we're going to have introductions where we introduce the CAP Month team at ACT, and then everyone will have the opportunity to introduce themselves and what organization they work for. We're also going to review what we did last year, all the materials and work that ACT did, and then invite you to share your experiences using those materials and resources. And then we have the role of the committee, which is to give feedback on what worked last year, ideas for what would work better for this year. Are there any things that you would like to see more of or less of? And then we're going to maybe talk about planning resource allocation and events. And then we're also going to talk about future planning. So are there specific materials that we're going to have or that we want to implement for next, for CAP Month 2026? And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about coordinating our next meetings. So a quick overview, Child Abuse Prevention Month, what is it? It's a time dedicated to raising awareness and preventing child abuse and neglect. Alaska consistently has some of the highest rates of child abuse and neglect in the nation. So this really highlights the need and importance of our work. And then research has shown that prevention strategies such as education and increasing accessibility to resources like SNAP and Medicaid lower child maltreatment and neglect. So our goal for Child Abuse Prevention Month 2026 is to amplify the resources and materials we have to make a meaningful difference in Alaska. So this means getting our resources out to different communities and making sure all our materials are culturally and contextually relevant. So here's our Prevention Month team. I'm Akriti KC. I'm the Alaska Fellow, and my work is strategy prevention. So my ongoing tasks are to continue supporting the ongoing prevention strategies, which are like key plans and activities we have to reduce child abuse and neglect and provide families with the resources, tools, and skills to thrive. And then go ahead, Kayla.
Everyone, my name's Kayla Pfister. I've been at the Children's Trust for a couple of years now, so you've probably worked on another Prevention Month campaign with me. But I'm the Director of Community Engagement. So my main role at the Children's Trust is to work with corporate partners to find funding for projects like this. And we can talk a little bit about funding when we talk about our materials and our mini grants later, and some of the avenues that we're pursuing this year, because it is a little bit different than in the past, and that may change some of the activities that we're able to do this year as well. But if you have any questions related to my work or what we've done in past years, as this is Akriti and Addie's first year at ACT, you're welcome to shoot them my way. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla, and thank you, Akriti. My name is Addie Peters. As Kayla mentioned, I am also relatively new to the Alaska Children's Trust. I've been the Director of Strategy there for about the past 6 months. And so, yes, excited to be working on first CAP Month in April 2026. So nice to, some of you are familiar faces, so nice to see you again, or nice to meet you. All right. And I think we're going to hear from all of you. I'll pass it back to Akriti for that.
Mm-hmm. So Mirna could not be here today, but she is our Director of Communication. So all the materials and resources for getting the word out and keeping everyone engaged and up to date, she does, and she is great at. Okay, so in the past, what has ACT provided? We've provided social media toolkit for partners. We've had, we've had webinars and trainings during April. We have legislative and media outreach, press releases, radio text for ads in your community, opinion editorial and blogs to personalize, we have printed materials, and we have Go Blue Kids Activity Guide. So most of these resources are either available online or printed or both. And then some of the
We
printed
don't
material.
have the grants. We don't have the grants on there, but you all know about the grants.
Oh, yeah. And then we'll cover more of the grants in a minute too. But for printed materials, we have the Pinwheels for Prevention, the Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Toolkit. We have the Strengthening Families coloring books in English, and then we have the UPIC and Spanish translations available online. We have the growth charts, the magnetic photo frames, the fortune teller, the online safety cards, online safety conversation cards, and then the Canine Sunny comic books. So all of these materials are shipped to organizations by ACT ahead of April, so you have them available during CAP month. Are these materials good? Does anybody have any feedback on specific materials?
I live in Southeast Alaska and curious about including Tlingit language. How does that come about? What do you have to do for that?
I could speak to that a little bit. So, Kay, last year, what we did, because we wanted to make some of the resources more accessible, was look at the top 6 languages spoken in the state. And one of the reasons that we were able to pursue UPIC was we got a grant from Bering Straits Native Corporation. And so that paid fully for the translation for the UPIC. We would absolutely love to get all of the materials translated into a bunch of different languages. If you know someone, since you live in Southeast, that could connect us with folks that would do that kind of work pro bono, we would love that. Or we could also talk to maybe Tlingit and Haida about potentially paying for it. Last year, we used the Alaska Native Justice Center to get things translated. They're a really reputable source for translation, and so we know our book. We know our book is right, which is one of the issues sometimes when you get the pro bono work. But if you have a connection, we would love to talk to them, and you can definitely email myself or Addie or Creedy, and we would love to get connected with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kay. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering, so Kay, I know I've met you before, but I think it'd be lovely if we could, Creedy, I'm probably jumping ahead of you because you're probably doing it anyway, but if we could hear who everybody is and where they're calling in from. So I just have a sense of that. So.
Well, I just spoke. I'm Kay Larson. I'm in Wrangell and represent a group called BRAVE, Building Respect and Valuing Everybody. Mostly we started with prevention and issues related to domestic violence, but for me, I'm more focused on prevention and just children and families. So,
awesome. And Kay, you've been involved in CAP Month in the past?
I think for about 6 years now.
Right.
I can go next. I'm Megan Boltz. I'm with Campfire Alaska, right? Currently at Chugach, one of our programs, but we're based in Anchorage and Eagle River. We have participated in almost every year, I believe. Definitely focusing on prevention. Just a lot of things popping up lately as well. So prevention is important.
Why don't you pass it along so we get everybody?
I'll pass it to Gloria because I know you're on here.
Hi, I'm Gloria. I am also with Campfire Alaska. This is my first year joining in these meetings here, so I'm excited to watch it all unfold. Ariana, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm doing this from my phone in my car, so I'm not sure how it's working.
I'm Ariana Lamada. I'm in charge of our major events this year at Campfire. So this is going to be my first year going through this entire process. I've been at Campfire for many years, so I'm familiar with the work we do and with Go Blue Day. But yeah, this will be my first year joining in this entire process as well. I guess I'll pass it to Desiree.
My name is Desiree Scott. I'm the director of Alaska Center for Resource Families. We work with foster and adoptive families throughout all of Alaska. We have offices in Anchorage, Wasilla, and Fairbanks. Not directly the prevention side, kind of the opposite end, but there's prevention and out-of-home care. So we attended the Go Blue Day in Anchorage, and we had a booth there last year. But in my capacity with ACRF, I haven't attended. I don't know if we've ever had anybody attend the planning meetings. I attended them a few years ago in a previous role with a different agency, but I'm excited to be here. And then Mavis, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. My name is Mavis Boone, and I'm the Director of Programs for the Pacific Community of Alaska. We've had, I think, one meeting with ACT on what it does, and of course, there was an exchange on what our organizations do for community. Pacific Community of Alaska had launched its domestic violence and sexual assault programming 2 years ago. And ACT we have been running in the same circles when it comes to using protective factors, a culture as a protective factor. And we've kind of created a curriculum around that. If you haven't heard about us, we're a 501c3. We serve marginalized communities, but primarily the Native Hawaii Pacific Islander community that are based here in Alaska. For our mental health program, we actually have partnerships with 5 major mainstream providers. So we have collaboration with a WIC in Utqiagvik. We also have Aware in Juneau. We have Fairbanks Native Association, as well as Interior in Fairbanks. We have partnerships. We have an agreement with the Alaska Family Services in the Mat-Su Valley. We also have agreements with both Awake and STAR here in Anchorage. So it's one of those things that our community don't like to talk about, and of course that's the same across multiple ethnic groups. But somebody has to start the conversation. So we took on that mantle in starting to engage community in ways that are culturally appropriate and sensitive as well. So that although it's a taboo subject to talk about, there are other ways that we can bring about conversation. And understanding what ACT does, we've also looked into a lot of their material. And of course, a lot of the programming is very linear, to the point where it's a bigger thing. It's it covers a multitude of facets. But then when it comes to funding and programming, it's very specific. And we feel like child abuse prevention and of course awareness it still falls under domestic violence and sexual assault. And that's why I'm here today. Sorry for that very, very long spiel. But this is my first time here, and I look forward to learning more. Thank you. I came in late, so I don't know who has not gone. So forgive me for that.
I think the last one we have is Kenneth. If not, okay, we can always come back. But yeah, please feel free to stop me anytime with any questions or if you have any feedback. Okay, we're going to continue. So also in the past, we've had training and events. So we had a calendar with partner organizations, events and trainings. So these were like online modules, pre-recorded talks, readings, community handouts. Were you guys able to utilize this? Was it easy to use, and was it helpful to see the different trainings that different partners had offered, and were you able to pass it along to community members?
I liked how you guys posted it on your website, and it was easy to access and easy to look daily. And we were trying to share it onto our websites as well, and our Instagram and Facebook. So I liked how easily accessible it was to share as well.
Okay, perfect.
We get a lot of requests from parents looking for specific trainings, and we thought that this might be a better way to, instead of us doing everything, sharing out what everyone across the state is doing, especially a lot of these are virtual. So I think the big ask from us to all of you is to make it easier for us to find them, because we just kind of are scouring Facebook looking for what different people have going on. So Mavis, if you guys have a training, send it our way. Campfire, if you have something, just make sure you're sending it to us, because sometimes we miss them, and it's nice to have them all in one place, because a full training hub for the whole state doesn't really exist. And that's something I would love to see beyond April. If we have these resources beyond April in a calendar, it would be so cool. So be sure to send them our way.
I really second that motion. There have been requests from people in Wrangell for parenting trainings, and there's so much out there. But if it can be consolidated into one location, that would just be so helpful, especially if it were going year-round.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen different attempts by different organizations and entities within the state to do it, but yeah, nothing that's ever fully launched. So
yeah, maybe we can try for this year to make like a calendar or like a Google Calendar or something that people can send in. I think Kayla was talking about this, but people can send in different trainings or different events they have, and we can just add it to the calendar, and we don't have to constantly update a sheet.
Yeah, the PDF is a little inhibitive because every time we get a new one earlier in the month, we have to add it. But we did use our event calendar on the ACT website one year. But if we could design something that pre-populates, that we don't have to add it ourselves, I think that would be ideal.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we can work on for this year. Yeah. Okay, so then we have Go Blue Day. So Go Blue Day is the first Friday of April, and it's just a day where we raise awareness, get the month out that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And there's a lot of blue because blue is the color of prevention. And on that note, we do have a Go Blue Day activity book. So this just has different activities, like we have a bingo or a calendar of tasks you can do, different tasks you can do every day. We have different movie night recommendations or different activities such as like a finger painting activity, just so families can get their kids involved and just have different ways to talk about what CAP month is. Has this resource been easy to access / is it easy to hand out to parents or community members and get them involved with the different activities?
Are these like sorry. Go ahead.
You could.
Are these like included in the ones that we order a certain amount of?
This one is online only. It's
okay.
On our like CAP month page.
Then for us, that'll be easy. It's just the ones that we're limited on numbers of resources we can get. It's been a struggle with Campfire just because we serve so many youth. We never have enough to hand out to everybody.
Do you think it's accessible when it's online and you're able to download like PDFs? Okay.
So the online stuff is fine. It's just the other stuff that we order that we only can have limited amounts. Yeah.
Okay.
Jumping in here to say that in the past, I've pretty much been the single volunteer carrying out any activities for our group. And I'm hoping that when we have our Family Resilience Fair this year, we'll focus more on children's education, prevention, all of that, safety and well-being, and that others in the group will take on some of the activities. We really have mostly done PRs, public announcements on the radio and handing out things at the school, but we really have not carried out very many of the activities. I'm hoping that we can do more this year with more people than just me.
We hope so too, Kay. For your sake, it's a lot to carry.
Okay. Now, Kayla, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. Yeah. So Mirna does our communications, and either her or I will be doing the comms for this April's Prevention Month. So last year, the theme was Powered by Hope, Strengthened by Prevention. The how it all kind of works, it filters down to us because Alaska Children's Trust is a member of a network called the Prevent Child Abuse America Network. And so we get information from Prevent Child Abuse America. We decide, okay, is this appropriate for Alaska, or do our things need a slightly different look than the rest of the country? Because we have a very different vibe up here. For example, April's still snowy, and in other places it is not. So we look at kind of the social media tools that they give, and we decide if we're going to go along with that. You can go to the next page, Akriti. So we don't know what the theme yet is for 2026, but when we find that out, we will let you all know. These are some of the pieces that we did last year, ranging from radio ad language to a sample press release, whether you're having a Go Blue Day event yourself, or you just want to let your local radio station know, hey, we're leading this work in this community for the month. And I would love to be on the radio and just talk about the importance of upstream prevention, because we just need heroes out there talking about that, right? So we do a press release, we do radio ads, we do a couple op-eds, blogs that we put into some of the statewide newspapers, but then we also ask, hey, take this thing we've already written, change it however you need to change it, and submit it with your own name and your organization's name and take ownership of it. Modify it so it's appropriate for the audience you have, translate it into Spanish for Sol de Medianoche newspaper, do whatever you need to, because we are not about taking ownership or needing things to stay in our colors. We're just wanting to get the word out as much as possible. So if that means translating it into a different language, putting your logo on it, changing whatever, you have our blessing. We just want to make it as easy for you to share out. So we do these social media pieces also. Those are the little graphics with like post on this day. We have suggested post text for you to use, and we will make something like this again this year. I think we'll reuse stuff from last year because it's still really good and hasn't been seen in all the places yet. And Mirna did an excellent job making like over 25 posts ready to go, ready to copy paste right onto your page. You'll be able to download them from Google Drive, or you can actually go into Canva and add your own logo to them if you have comms people that want to do that. So we really try to make it as accessible for you as we possibly can. How did it work last year? Did folks use any of our posts? I saw some being used. I saw some being co-branded with other orgs. But what can we do to make this easier for you or more manageable? Sometimes I kind of think we do too much and it makes it hard to concentrate on which pieces to use. What do y'all think?
We do use the radio spots, and sometimes we've had grants from ACT for that. Last year we paid for them ourselves, and then the radio threw in extras. They think they gave us, I can't remember how many extras that they donated.
That's why we always have a radio spot just for you, Kay.
I think this is a great tool, especially for smaller organizations that don't have the bandwidth. So like we wear multiple hats. So it's one of those things where you have this kind of assistance. We gladly use it if we're able to. So this is a great help to us that don't have time to sit around and like go through social media and figure out what needs to be posted, what needs to go. So thank you. If you are going to do the same lineup for next year, we greatly appreciate it.
Okay, that's all we need to hear. Perfect.
Okay. So on that note, what have you or your organizations done in the past for Prevention Month, and what has worked, what hasn't worked for you so far?
I could go. So we haven't really, like, this is our first time working together with ACT on this. So we haven't really done anything specific for April, but we have administered some of our group sessions in shelters, working with families. And during those sessions, we usually open it up to include like children that are also exposed, to give them the opportunity to share with their parents there, just being open-minded. And like in our community, we're trying to break the mold because we're brought up in a society that has, since the coming of Christianity, become very patriarchal. And Western ideas of children are seen and not heard are still, vibrating through despite generations. So having children in those spaces gives them the opportunity to speak their truth while their parents are there. Not to kind of provoke the parents on how they discipline their children, but have them view the engagement between a different person that has a different perspective from how they kind of perceive their children and their limitations that are in play. So it's kind of just having that open dialogue with the kids and having them, okay, how do you feel about, for example, if I'm talking about confidence, right? Parents would normally be like sharing, but the children will kind of hold back. So in those kind of conversations, I usually have like a little YouTube video that gives them that sense of familiarity with kids. And then I ask them, how do they feel about that? What do they feel about confidence? Because in our community, like addressing the topic directly never ends well. So we have to find ways, merry-go-round, around and around until we actually reach the point of discussion. But we have to talk story in order to bring our community to the point where we're able to say, okay, like I understand that you're looking at child abuse as a form of discipline, but there is a line that you cannot cross. So that's how it is when we're working with our community. And I feel that in some spaces, our perception of abuse is similar to other ethnic groups. So it might be the same in others, it might not be. But just being able to work with communities that have the same understanding that we do also helps bridge the conversation.
So it's more about building relationships.
Sorry, was that a question for me, Kay?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Because trust is very big in our community, which is why our churches are at the forefront of like a lot of community gatherings. So trying to establish that with community on a very personal level is key. to having them hear your message. Because you can go like take the bull by the horns and go full frontal, but it's never gonna, I mean, it might not sink in. You have a high likelihood of them shutting down, which then kind of defeats what we're trying to do. And I'd rather go the long road and get the message there than be be aggressive with the message because we're very charismatic about our push and then lose the audience in that push. So it takes a while. Like many funders are like, yeah, we gave you this money. It has to happen. Yeah, we'd all love it to happen as soon as the money lands, but like you have to build community first before the message can be disseminated. But I'm thinking with ACT being like you've been in a community way longer than PCA. And I feel like the collaboration with ACT in this push is also a key component of getting the message out there.
I feel kind of chatty today. I heard about an event in Denmark. They called it Human Library, where people would go into the library and people would have maybe it was a title of a topic or something like that. I'm not sure. But the people would check out a person instead of a book, and they'd sit down in chairs facing one another and have a conversation. And we did that once in our elementary school. I think there were 9 or 10 community members with different backgrounds, different stories. I told one about my great uncle who was Chinese, that was an artist. And the kids came and sat in little groups, 5 or 6 kids, and they were prepared with a few questions. And all that was a conversation to get to know each other, build some trust, have some little awareness of each other. And that was it. It didn't continue, but maybe something like that, some kind of a form like that, could be organized through ACT. People could pick up on it and modify it for their own community, but kind of along the line of what you're saying, Mavis, but a little more structured.
No, I definitely love that. I've been wanting to do, because everything, you have great ideas, but it all drops down to the money. Because I've been wanting to do kind of like community elder highlights where we invite youth and we invite children, where they're talking about legends, myth and legends from their own communities, because the Pacific is a very vast cultural group. And we have a multitude of like oral history out there that a lot of the children that are born in the diaspora do not have. And sometimes in terms of cultural belonging or a sense of belonging, there's that void that a lot of them kind of speak to when they're in spaces when they're a little bit older. So I love this idea of like a human library. It's just, I don't know, yes, it's giving me very, very homesick vibes because I was not born in the States. I was born on the island. So I would love to do this.
Maybe next time we meet as a steering committee, we can have Colleen Andrews from Rock Matsu here, because they did that. They did a human library event with Rock Matsu and Palmer. I just found the event on Facebook because I remember her talking about it in 2023. And maybe she can give some insight into how it went and all of that. But she usually is at these meetings. So let's ping her next time, McCready, to maybe present on that.
Oh no, I mean, it's a possibility we could do it in person or we can do them virtual.
Mhm.
where we were not limited to Alaska.
And they really don't have to cost a thing. Time and energy, well, that's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, and at least it won't, like, there's safety issues, and of course, April, people are still driving weird in Alaska, especially Anchorage. So yeah, that could be, like a hazard take on it. Where we can perhaps do it virtually, where we can reach out to those that are in Rango, Ukhiavik, Juneau, where they don't have to like travel over, but they're still able to share story with kids in Anchorage, kids in Valdez that are able to, hop on board for a like for a story session. We just got to make sure how many books we got, how many books we have at our disposal.
I feel like that's kind of similar to one of the options for the mini grants last year was to host a lived experience storytelling event to raise awareness of like different Alaskans' experience with either child abuse or neglect or anything related to that. So I feel like that's similar. Maybe we can have mini grants be used for this human library like event.
Like for individual partners or for ACT, for this month, for this particular.
For individual partners. So ACT, I'm going to go to that slide real quick. So ACT gives out mini grants during April. So in 2025, we gave out $5,400 to 16 different organizations or program sites or community groups in 9 communities. So these grants are around $300 per recipient, and they just allowed these organizations to either host a lived experience storytelling event, a Lean On Me training, which was just a training that allowed community members to learn more about how they can support families, or host another prevention focused event. So this could be a Go Blue Day event. So these were the grants were given out to help different communities with this. So yeah, so maybe like the human library could be given to the money could be given to different organizations so they could have that event or similar events.
I really like that, and making it more broad away from, we've done lived experience with child abuse and neglect for a while. Let's go more towards the prevention side. Maybe it's just parents talking about their experiences. Maybe it's a parent like yesterday at the press release talking about their experience with online safety for their kid. Maybe it's a parent talking about keeping their child connected to their culture in a different country. Maybe maybe we could have different parents and caregivers as these books in lieu of something that is as difficult to talk about. I think that was one of the challenges with the lived experience project, was we had people willing to talk, but it was just a couple people. And I think a lot more people could lend their experience if we keep it more broad to like a parent experience, that kind of thing.
I mean, I think the only thing that we would need to look out for in those kind of situation is capping the topic.
Yeah.
Kind of like making sure that, because they could go off of a tangent and just decide to give advice on things that they cannot. It's just, just coaching them on what they can and cannot talk about would be great.
Yeah, a little training session beforehand.
And maybe a list of prompts, just
Yeah.
suggestions.
I so love this idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Because I've been wanting to do that, like the storytelling for youth, but because I was looking at it a very physical kind of space, it didn't really dawn on me that I could do it this way. So thank you.
Okay, so I think the next question was on mini grants. If you have used the mini grants before, do you think they were beneficial, or what changes would you like to see to the mini grants? So maybe in addition to the human library or lived experience storytelling, are there certain activities you would like the money to go towards, or would it be helpful if like ACT made a activity guide and then use the money to get those activity guides out? Or would you like the freedom to use the money to host your own event?
It's more organic if we do it ourselves. Last year, we did apply for one for 300 and it helped us utilize the space for our family resilience fair, help cover the cost of that.
And I think, Kay, you had mentioned that you were using the radio spots or the radio ads. So maybe like having money that can go towards advertising.
We
Would
did
that
that
be
in the
helpful?
past. Last
Mhm.
year, somehow we came up with the money for that ourselves. But yeah, that's useful, I think, for people that need it.
Mm-hmm. Um, okay, so for 2026, some ideas we had were maybe creating a toolkit for involving faith-based communities or libraries or more community spaces. We also have a lot of online safety resources currently. So we have the K9 Sunny Comics, and then we have a new conversation cards coming out, and then we have an app for those conversation cards starting in January. Some other ideas we had were maybe having like a kids art contest or some kind of contest and tying that in with online safety and prevention. We talked about the calendar earlier, so maybe an ongoing events and training calendar. So you can all send your events in and we can display it and make a more concise calendar to send out. And then we also had an idea about maybe short social media videos about prevention and just kind of going off of the lived experience, having people share their stories and being able to promote that too. How do these ideas sound to you, or do you have any other ideas that we haven't really covered yet?
I'm just looking at the faith-based community toolkit. We have an interfaith table here in Wrangell, and I'm quite
Mhm.
sure that they will be interested in hearing more about this. I just took the link to look it up. Thanks.
Thanks, Kay. I think the Baha'i folks, I think you connected us with some of the Baha'i folks last year, and they actually did give us some feedback on it too. But we are still like at the stage of like, we don't really have enough feedback on this toolkit. So if you are in a faith-based community, we would love some more comments on how it could be more helpful. And we tried to make it pretty broad so that regardless of what type of faith it is, it's applicable. But if you have ideas for that, definitely communicate them with us because we've really tried. We outreached to like 40 different faith-based orgs last year. And we got very little back. So I'd love to get some more momentum around this.
Mavis, it sounds like you had a hookup with a church as well that maybe we could get in touch with. Or did I mishear that?
Sorry, I'm near the big. We're just gonna let the plane pass. But if you can hear me fine, that's
Yep. We can.
yes, we do have communication with some of our churches. We can definitely see how we can make that connection. Because, when it's faith-based, it just depends on the frame of mind of the church leader.
Mhm.
So we can definitely make that connection. Let me know who I need to tie in on an email.
We have an interfaith harmony musical devotional coming up on the 29th, and people will be there with that interest in mind, so I can share that.
Also, please feel free to type in the chat if you do have any ideas or feedback too, and you aren't able to speak. And then this is just going to our discuss and share. Some questions that we want to think about as we do come up with these materials and resources is how can we drive real change through Child Abuse Prevention Month? What can we improve or add to our resources for this? How can we involve more communities or organizations? So these faith-based organizations, what can we do to reach out to more and get feedback from them? And then are there any themes or focus areas that you would like spotlighted? So like online safety is really big and we've been focusing on that. But are there different areas that you would also like us to focus on or maybe have advice or resources for?
I think mental health is a big thing right now with our younger generation, where there's a disconnect of understanding between parents and their children when it comes to mental health. Because we have an older generation that do not accept mental health as a concept. And we have a younger generation that are very much aware of their feelings and their thoughts and their frame of mind. Perhaps that there's a way that we can sort of address it as a prevention tool. Maybe one of those things where you can elevate like important family members that form the dynamic of the family. This is coming from an aunt that had to unlearn as someone that was brought up in the Pacific. We have a very patrilineal system that's very misogynistic. So coming to the United States, I had to unlearn a lot of things because the expectation was very real in the islands, where you had to perform well in everything that you do to the point where there's no other option but up. In the United States, the exposure is different. And there's a lot of learning that has to happen within families in order for parents that own these children to understand what their children are going through. Sometimes they're reluctant to understand the position that their children are in. And it's hard when you don't have that other objective person. So in the situation with my family, I'm more the objective one, where I'm helping my siblings unlearn certain expectations that we have growing up. And at the same time, explaining to my nieces and my nephews why their parents have this frame of mind. And then bringing them to the table of, you need to talk about these issues. You need to make them understand if this is their choice, you got to sit down the boundaries, make the rules, but at the same time support them. Because when we moved here, there was an these are economic struggles or financial struggles, where we're moving to the United States to make better futures for our children. Our children are now grown. So their exposure is more mental as opposed to economic. And it's getting them to realize there's like a bigger world, a bigger dynamic that we have to like factor in to conversations with family members. Sorry, I'm kind of going at it like the long way around it, but I'm trying to perhaps grasp from you on how you think that could be addressed as a perhaps topic. because child abuse, our children know what abuse is. Right? The parents, on the other hand, still need to be educated where that line stops and abuse begins, where discipline stops and abuse begins. So it's one of those kind of things. So help me. I'm going around in circles, but I don't know how that would come about as like a focus.
I was thinking very similar to you, I think, Mavis, and on the track of the mental health, more on the prevention side of the parent, like you said, we see a lot of children or youth with like these really large behaviors and these big outbursts, and then that's typically when parents feel overwhelmed and don't know what to do. And then you, of course, get into what is normal in families. And so I think a lot of the materials I know are geared towards youth, and gearing some more materials towards families, towards parents of what are some steps or actions you can take during those moments, without it just being like another thing that goes and gets put on your kitchen counter and then tossed once you run out of space. Again, I don't, like you said, Mavis, I don't really know how to get to there, but I do think some education on mental health, what that looks like, how it may be shown within youth, and then what our roles are as parents and how can you help support it. And sorry, but yelling at them and telling them to isn't going to support anything. It's not helping. We're actually just escalating it. And so I agree. I think something for parents of what to do during those moments, I think could be really beneficial.
I like that. Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, but mental health has been kind of creeping into my life and concerns lately, and I've been attending this course. It's mainly from NAMI, National Alliance for Mentally Ill. It's mainly for people who have a family member that is diagnosed and suffering and getting through that. But I think the NAMI website might have a lot of resources available, and maybe we can plug this into the next discussion when this group meets again, because I do think it's really, really important and becoming more and more vital in our society. Lot of dimensions of it.
I think it would also be a good opportunity to bring in more cultural clinicians, clinicians that actually do the work, that understand the dynamics of the culture, whether it's tribal or NHPI, because you have credentials, but if you don't, or if you're not like culturally aware of the rest of the plan, then it just falls short of just being clinical. But there are nuances in culture that make these discussions a little bit more approachable. That perhaps it is also an opportunity for us to kind of uplift cultural practitioners in those spaces, whether they're tribal practitioners or family practitioners. If they are BIPOC, tribal, I feel like we need to elevate them in these spaces, just because of the cultural component of it.
I love that, Mavis. I 100% agree with you. I think we see a lot of clinicians just by nature of the work. I also am a clinician, but the nature of the work, you're talking about access to higher education to begin with. And so we take a westernized approach a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, the folks who are willingly in going to therapy or specifically for parenting or family therapy, they're in it and they know that there's something they need to change. Whereas we need to probably address those folks that don't realize, and it is a cultural gap sometimes of not realizing where, like you said, where does discipline end and abuse begin? I love the idea of that. I think there's plenty of opportunities to find folks
Mm-hmm.
to be able to help with that. And I love the idea of maybe doing a training.
Has there
Even
ever
a training on working with families that are outside of, maybe not, if we may not be able to touch the families themselves, but even work talking to other clinicians about how to work with these families. And it could be really beneficial.
I had a quick question. So how much does this work cover like youth on youth abuse? Because it's something that we've been talking about in Campfire a lot recently. You know, it's something that we're like seeing numbers across the country in uptick. And you know, it's something where like we brought up that you know, a lot of our kids, like all of our kindergartners and first graders are COVID kids and, you know, didn't necessarily go to preschool, maybe didn't even go to, you know, didn't, you know, do a lot of stuff. Or like we've got, you know, kids who had like gaps in, you know, their social and emotional, I don't know what the word is I need, but
Sure. I can speak to that, Ariana. I'm
okay.
sorry to cut you off. I'm just very aware we're close to
Yeah.
time. If you, we probably have your email address. If you stick it into chat as well, that will really help. This actually, I'm not sure that we'll be making it a focus of Child Abuse Prevention Month, but looking at problematic and harmful sexual behavior among youth is an emerging priority area for us at ACT. And in fact, we have just this week sent out for review and input from partners like you all a draft child sexual abuse prevention plan for Alaska. And one of our big priorities there, one of our key areas is exactly what you're talking about. So maybe not directly CAP month, but ACT work and statewide work, yes. So I will send you the info on that right when we get off here, and so you can have a look at that. And then I'd be the person that you can connect with more on that. And I just don't want to take over this conversation. So I'll pass it back to Akriti to wrap up, but I'll follow up with you on that. Thanks.
Yes. Okay, we are over time. So thank you very much for joining the meeting and giving us your feedback, and what you would like to see. For next meetings, please subscribe to our newsletter so we can inform you of when our next meetings are going to be. I also do have your email, so I can send you an email about maybe possible times to see what would work for you guys, and then let you know what time we decide on for the next meeting. We also do have a feedback form, so if there's anything that you think of later on that you would like us to know, I'll put the feedback form. I'll also email it out so you have it, and you can just fill that out, and we will have your feedback so we can talk about it next time too. But yes, thank you so much for coming today. And I can go back to our emails page. So if you have any more questions or anything you want to say, you can email any of us.
Yeah, what a great small group. You guys were awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Hope to